So, thinking about how Christians and co are so obsessed with whose genitals are in what bathroom, I thought, I know a little bit about this. Let's do a history reel. So, the short answer is before running water, before that'd be like, let's say 1915, 1918, World War One. A lot of people did not have running water, even if you're very wealthy. I've seen the Titanic exhibit, and you could pay $5,000 back in the day to have your own balcony and shit. You still didn't have a running water toilet. So I guess the prehistory to gendered bathrooms is for most of history, they weren't necessary because if you were a noble woman, a white woman, which is all they ever cared about. You didn't tend to go a lot of places, and so you'd have your chamber pot at home, or if you did go places, chamber pots. I mean, that's like some places had a series of kind of like an outhouse but indoors. It's very weird to explain, but for the most part, chamber pots. And if you weren't a rich white woman, they didn't care about those. Well, you pissed in the street or next to the road on a road trip or wherever. In Versailles, which we think is very pinky up classy, there's literally a tile worn down in the halls from people pissing in the halls. They wore down the tile. That is so gross. And when they'd have these balls with rich white people, they'd have, if you were a female, what you'd do is you'd be talking to somebody, like, gotta pee. You'd wave over a poor person, a servant. They'd give you a chamber pot under your dress. You'd pee. I mean, I don't know if you'd want to do much more. You wouldn't have much of a choice. And then they'd take it from you at the end. So that's how most of history was with bathrooms. They didn't care if it wasn't rich people. And if you weren't rich, you were just pissing almost anywhere. I mean, it squeaks me out. It really does. And then you'd say, well, okay, what about when rich people in the United States and England, because that's mostly that's where gendered bathrooms really came from. The answer is women up to the point of running water were not rich women, of course. They didn't give a shit about poor women. They weren't allowed to go anywhere, so it wasn't a problem. You didn't need a public restroom because ladies can't go anywhere. If you want to know how good the conditions were for poor people up to this point, New York did not require running water bathrooms or any bathrooms in apartment blocks till like the 1920s. They had public bathhouses for people to go bathe in, but otherwise you're using a chamber pot and it's not their problem, so it's pretty gross. Never mind, like my grandfather, we're talking Iowa here, hillbillies, but not like that hillbillied. He is still alive. He did not have indoor plumbing till the 40s. And my great grandparents on my mother's side, who lived happy lives and they had quite a lot of land and such, they didn't have indoor plumbing till 1972. I couldn't believe that. I was like, especially if you knew them, you just wouldn't get that vibe of it. But oh my God. So if you're a poor person and you don't have running water, you have an outhouse if you're not using a chamber pot. So it really kind of like, are you in the city? Are you rural? The first time women really started rebelling about being kept inside, that these women's only restaurants open, which again, you wouldn't need a gendered bathroom because no men are allowed in. So Delmonico's 1868 in New York. They were open at least as of 2018. I'm not sure if they're still open. But that's kind of the first steps of rich white ladies going out. Meanwhile, poor women, another squeaky, when factories came to be, poor women, and this still includes white women, but poor women who worked in factories and such, well, how'd you deal with like having a period? You wore something like a sanitary apron and you just blood all over. It's so nasty. So, yeah, there's a reason people are dying of disease left and right in the past. But okay, we get up to 1918. Richer people, at least, are starting to have indoor bathrooms with running water. And at the same time, around 1914, it became a craze for upper crust women to leave the house and go to like little tango parlors, tango cafes, where they pay money to dance with a handsome guy. And this was quite a scandal. So it was going to ruin everything. So it's not quite at the gendered point, but they're starting to be out more. And once the war ended, flappers, bam, women are out there. And yes, the rich white women, which is all society cared about. I don't know for sure when the first gendered like, I don't know if history knows who the first gendered bathroom was, but they definitely entered the picture in the 1920s. Because I don't know if you'd say they were remodeled or not. I'm unsure. But if you ever see an old movie theater, they got the separate areas. And of course, before flappers became a whole thing, they're like, oh, women are going to be so tired from all this exertion and wearing their corsets. We got to put lounging sofas and chaises in these women's restrooms, which is weirdly something that went on long enough for me to see. I remember those as a child. And if I remember correctly, Nordstrom's in LA had it well into 2018 because you just want to hang out in a public bathroom. It smells lovely. Anyway, so this is where that kind of enters the picture, which is weird because the 20s were so open, at least versus the rest of the history at that time, to different sexualities and genders. But it kind of just faded away in the Depression, World War II. Nobody was questioning this. It was, of course, ladies go to the gendered bathrooms, and I guess we'll put the poor bitches in there too. But oh, the rich white ladies, oh, they could men would rape them. Sound familiar? Yeah. And I think as a whole, it just really went unquestioned for the longest time. Then the Republicans hit on it with such a fervor around the start of Trump, maybe a little earlier. And they started that, oh, they'll be raped. It's odd, they never really talk about trans men, but whatever. I guess if they think you're a man, they won't rape you. What's this fucking logic? I'll tell you, as a woman, I've never felt unsafe in a bathroom, and I've gone in men's restrooms before, but just where it's one room each. I really wouldn't have a problem with going into like a full men's restroom as long as I had a stall. I know they're not as much in there because of the urinals, but it's a bathroom. I don't want to browse it. I don't know why anybody else would. Jesus Christ. So the history of gendered bathrooms is really quite recent and extremely stupid. Never mind classist and racist and sexist. I mean, they never really cared what the poor women were up to or the people of color women. But oh, now it's those they're going to be raped and murdered. They will if we have gender-free bathrooms.